Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Hello, PR Maven Nation. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast. Episode 217, presented by Marshall Communications, creator of the Marshall Plan 65-Step Strategic Process. For those of you new to the show, I'm your host, Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I want to welcome you. And with me today is the guest, Lynn Campbell, Director of Marketing, Advertising, and CRM at VIP Tires and Service. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, Lynn.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Nancy.
It's nice to have you too, Lynn. So Lynn went to McGill University in Montreal, Canada, and graduated with a Bachelor of Science and began her marketing career in Los Angeles, working as a media planner for a local advertising agency. After a few years, she moved to Hawaii to work with a global agency, Ogilvy and Mather, and later became vice president of the Advertising Works. She then began her own marketing agency, CG Media Specialists, which she owned and operated for 6 years. After moving to Maine in 1992, Lynn moved to the client side of the business, working with local firms like Hannaford Brothers and Wex, formerly Wright Express, as well as marketing director for AutoZone in Memphis, Tennessee. She joined VIP Tires and Service 6 years ago and is currently their Director of Marketing, Advertising, and CRM. And Marshall Communications is proud to be working with VIP as we speak. So she's become a great friend and client. And Lynn lives in Green, Maine, and enjoys long hikes with her dog, Callie, who's adorable. I've met Callie, and snowshoeing in the winter months. She also dabbles in acrylic painting and always enjoys a good mystery novel, as I do too. I just finished one last night. Although she's lived in many places, she's made Maine her permanent home and considers herself to be a Mainer.
That's right.
So Lynn, tell us about your career and how you got into it in the first place.
Okay. Well, even as a child, Nancy, I was left brain, right brain. They sort of function equally in me, and not one or the other is more predominant. So while I was a science major in college, I was I excelled in those courses, but at the same time, I took a lot of creative courses, creative writing, theater arts, things along those areas to nurture my creativity. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, my first job happened to be with an advertising agency, and I learned that I loved it. Over time, I realized that was partly because there are so many different aspects to marketing. You definitely have the creative side, which everybody sees, but there's a very scientific side with research and analysis that go on behind the scenes, and so it satisfies both sides of me. I think it's a great balance between the art and science of business, is how I usually put it.
It is. And actually, I could see how, I've known you for a while now, and I can see how that's how your brain functions. And the fact that you are analytical definitely helps, because with marketing and PR, there's just so many things you can do. There's so many ways you can spend your time, so many ways you can spend your money. But if you can actually analyze the return on investment
Exactly.
of how you're spending your marketing money and your time, then it makes sense, and you're more strategic.
Exactly. It helps you make smarter decisions moving forward, so you
Right.
can constantly be growing and evolving.
Right. But I didn't realize that you majored in the science.
Yes, I did.
So what was your science major?
It was marine science.
Wow.
Yes, I think I was enamored of Jacques Cousteau in that time frame, and decided I wanted to follow in his footsteps. It never happened because once I grew up, I realized that there were other jobs other than going out in a boat chasing whales. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, we could go whale watching sometime anyway.
I still love to do that.
Yeah, they have whale watching tours off the coast of Maine. So,
Okay.
So we're, as I mentioned, Marshall Communications is proudly working with VIP Tires and Service. What are the benefits of working with an outside PR agency?
Okay, well, first I'd like to say that working with you, Nancy, and your team at Marshall Communications is just amazing. You really exemplify the reason why companies should work with an outside PR agency.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate you saying that.
You bring a different perspective to our business than I can from a marketing perspective, and being so close to the business. You come in and you see things from a newsworthy point of view, from a community opinion point of view, and that's so important, especially in our business where relationships are the basis of everything. For example, you got us involved with the Trek Across Maine last year. We had never participated in that. We went in as a title sponsor, and I can't tell you the number of people that I know personally who have commented to me how pleased they were to see that we were involved with that undertaking. You heard some news anchors talking on air one night about wondering what the difference is between winter tires and all-season tires, and you jumped on it, and you arranged for them to interview Tim Winkler, our president and CEO, and he went through the 4 different types of tires with them in great detail so that they could understand and their viewers could understand what tire might be best for them. Education is a huge component of our go-to-market effort, and so that was perfect. And you've done a lot more than that for us as well. So I think that making those connections, having someone look at the business and help us do things that are newsworthy, that garner us a lot of positive news coverage and conversation, is just really important to the business. And it's something that is hard pressed when you have somebody who is just working internally on the one brand. You get too close to it.
Right. Well, I must say, VIP's presence at the Trek Across Maine, including the fact that Tim Winkler rode in the first day, he rode 60 miles on his bike.
Yeah.
And so that really went a long way as far as positioning VIP as a community neighbor and, donor to the American Lung Association, which is the recipient of the funds for the Trek. So I was really happy. And VIP has committed again for 2023.
Yes, we have.
As
we
well.
Enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. And then I do have to say, we'll link to the News Center Maine story. I was really pleased with the way that came out when Tim met with their news anchor, Amanda Hill, and he did explain all the different types of tires and including studded snow tires, which I actually used to use when I lived up at Sugarloaf. And but yeah, I think that people are confused because there are a lot of different types of tires, and some people think that you just kind of keep the tires that your car comes with, but they don't realize that depending on how you drive, where you drive, and also the kind of tires you use affects gas mileage too.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And keeping them at the right pressure point definitely helps with gas mileage.
Right.
You don't have as much drag, and so you're not expending as much fuel.
Right. So I've learned more about tires than I ever have before, of course.
Yeah.
And actually, I think that is one of the functions of public relations, is educating the public. And it also helps you get stories through the media as opposed to paid advertising where you're directly paying, and the public knows the difference, even though it's a subtle difference. If you do get media results in the news media, it's more credible, I think, than advertising.
It's a huge credibility halo that you gain when you have that advantage.
Yeah, I like that term, credibility halo.
Halo.
Yeah. We're just angels.
Okay.
I'm just joking. So you have decided to focus more on PR, and we did talk about the benefits of more PR.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the magazine that you hope to do in 2023.
Okay, so VIP has 67 locations throughout New England, and we are putting together a proprietary magazine. It's not been named yet, and it will be shortly, but it will be a combination of interesting articles for consumers to read. The first issue, I hope I'm not supposed to not let this out of the bag, but will, for example, have famous Mainers talking about their first ride and what it meant to them, and how they enjoyed it. And we're going to be combining that with getting to know our people in our company, and as well as educating consumers about what types of things do you need to watch for when you're getting ready for spring and summer road trips. What should you do conversely when winter is coming? How do you take care of your car so that it does its best job for you? And I'm very excited by this. It will be available in all of our showrooms, and people can read it while they're waiting for their vehicles, or they can take it home with them and enjoy it there. And I'm very excited. It's something I've been wanting to do for some time, and we are working with Down East Magazine in terms of the production and editorial for the publication. And first week of April, you should find it on the coffee tables in all of our stores.
Well, and I have to say this, we did go through the Marshall Plan process,
Yes, we
and
did.
this magazine was part of the Marshall Plan.
Yes, it was.
So again, that feels really good that was part of the overall PR strategy that we developed collaboratively. And that's what I always say about a Marshall Plan, is that it's not just us saying this is what you must do, but we collaboratively develop a plan and a strategy. And also, I was pleased to introduce you to the team at Down East, because they've been friends for a long time.
And they've been great to work with. So
yeah, they're consummate professionals.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, Lawrence and the team and Brian Kevin at Down East are awesome.
Exactly.
So you have become an automotive marketing specialist. What is the difference between the automotive industry and the other industries you have worked in?
Okay, so when it comes to consumer marketing, most products that you market to consumers are things that they're interested in, they're excited by, they want to buy them, they buy them because they want them, not so much because they need them.
Right.
And whereas with automotive tires and service, nobody, to be honest with you, is excited when they have to lay out money to take care of their vehicle.
No, an oil change.
Yeah.
Can't get excited about that.
Especially, the more expensive items, such as tire changes or transmission work, things of that nature. And so they're not happy when they're in your location. They're a little bit grumpy, and they would rather be just about anywhere else. At that
Maybe not the
time.
dentist, but
So what we do is we try to empower them and give them back control of something that they see as a very uncontrollable situation. And it really helps them feel better about what they're doing when they're a partner in the decision making around what they're going to do for their vehicle. And when they're offered options at different price levels and different types of products, that they can weigh in and decide what works best for them. And so that's pretty much what's different about our business and other consumer businesses, is that it's not a ta-da type of thing. And people don't come to us to browse. They come to us because they're in a difficult situation.
Right.
So,
But I mean, I myself have bought tires from VIP, and they're definitely experts. The people at VIP know their products, and they can talk about the pros and cons of different types.
Absolutely. We invest a lot in training for our associates, both third-party training like ASE and TIA, as well as internally with Garage Gurus and product and understanding your customer and knowing who your customers are. So we invest a lot in them so that they can do the right job for the customer.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely feel that when you walk into one of the stores. And as you said, you have 67 locations now throughout Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Vermont.
And Vermont, right.
Yeah.
We just opened our 67th store in Bennington, Vermont last Friday.
Right, almost over to Albany, New York.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, we're going to hear more from Lynn in a moment, but now I just want to remind you how to get a free PR Maven Things to Do pad. And those of us like Lynn and I who do a lot in a day, we like to write down all of our.
That's right.
Do you handwrite or do you keep it on your computer?
No, I handwrite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's something therapeutic.
Old school.
Yeah.
Yes.
So first, if you leave a review and subscribe to the PR Maven podcast on your favorite podcast player and visit prmaven.com/giveaway and put your information there, we'll send you a pad in the mail. And now we're going to hear from Mike Duguay about my 2 books, PR Works and Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand.
After reading PR Works, I really started to think about how marketing actually works. And I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but what I realized is that each platform nowadays that we use out there in digital media and social media has its own nuance and also quirks to it. And understanding how they're used is exceedingly important. Because when you have a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail. And you can't approach it that way in marketing. And that's where I think Nancy's brilliance really shined in PR Works. I think Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand is really sort of the manifesto of understanding that there's many different levels to marketing. It's on your personal side of your brand, how actually you express yourself through business, but also what people hear you saying and what they see out there in the public eye as well. So I think what's really important there, that's really the blueprint of how you go about using these new social media platforms, but also to express who you are as a human being. Because people want to see you authentically and genuinely working with not only what you do, but also with the customers. And Nancy, on a personal level, I think that's who she is. She embodies that approach.
Welcome back to the PR Maven Podcast, and we're talking with Lynn Campbell. And we're streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube today. So if you're watching live, welcome. We're here at the studio in Portland, and we're going to continue our conversation. So, Lynn, there are many aspects of marketing and communications. How do you prioritize? We were just talking about the things to do pad. You know, in any given day, you've got so many different things. How do you prioritize what to focus on?
Yep. So one of the things I enjoy most about marketing is that there are so many different aspects to it. Again, as I say, you're 1 minute working on creative undertakings, another minute you're analyzing a campaign that you ran to determine what went well, what didn't go so well, and what you could do for the next one. And you're right, there are so many different tasks going on, especially amongst the whole team, that you really need to be organized to keep it and make sure nothing slips through the cracks. What I use is a software program that helps you list all of the projects that you have in the works, what the status of each project is, what the deadline or time frame of that project is, and where you are along that path. And so
what's it called?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. All right, we can link to it in
I'll
the
get back
show
to you
notes.
on that. I think it might be a Microsoft program, but
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'll have to get
Because
back
we
to
use
you.
Microsoft To Do, actually.
That
It's
might be
just
the
a
one I'm
to-do
using.
list. Yeah.
So yes, so it's very helpful, and you can shuffle things if something else comes up that's more urgent.
Right. Yeah. No, it's always good to have a list. And I should have known that you were a list person because you are very organized and you do follow up on things too, which I appreciate. So some people are confused about the difference between marketing, advertising, and public relations. And also you do CRM. So why don't you explain those different aspects of marketing and how you think about them?
That's a really good question. People intermix them a lot, but when I think of them, I put them in very specific whole groups. So when I think of marketing, I think of the more strategic side of the business. It's both from a high level and from a detail level, looking at what your business is, who your competition are, what your products are, how they relate to the consumers that you're talking to, and how they interact with each other for the business. Also understanding, researching to determine what your consumers are, what they want, what their pain points are. Also, being a brand steward for the brand and making sure that everything that is a touch point across the whole universe is on brand and represents your company the way that it should. When I think of advertising, I think more about delivering your message to the right people in the right place at the right time in a way that's meaningful and relevant to them, so that you're talking to them in a way that they understand and that resonates with them. Public relations, we've touched on a bit, but I think it's really hugely about who you are and your interaction and relationship with your community and what you can bring to the community outside of selling product. And CRM, or customer relationship management, is more about your existing customers and taking care of them and nurturing them so that they will be happy and want to continue being your customers long into the future.
Right. So CRM also is really database management, isn't it? Kind of keeping a database of people.
You have a database of all your customers. Every business does, and it's working within that frame to not send somebody who just had an oil change last month something saying, come get an oil change.
Right.
It's understanding that they've already had an oil change. They don't need that for probably 6 months out. But they may be a customer who had recently turned down having brake work done on their vehicle, but it was very important that the brakes be looked at within a certain time frame. And so you talk to them about that instead. It's something that's relevant to them. And you can do that across, your whole customer base, even if it is 600,000 people. So
right. Well, there are people that would say that that list, that database of all of your customers is the most important and valuable asset of any business, because those are the people that are supporting you and your brand ambassadors, and
absolutely.
So taking care of that list is really vital.
Absolutely. We never sell the information on our list or anything along those lines, and the cost to work with and keep an existing customer is so small compared to the cost of trying to attract new customers through the door that it makes good business sense to really take care of them and make sure they're happy every time they come into your service and keep that conversation going with them.
I agree with that, absolutely. And I know in my world of PR and advertising, there are some agencies that just churn. They'll just use a client to get experience and then kind of like move on to the next client and charge more. But in my experience, it has always been best to try to work with clients for as long as possible.
Absolutely.
And we've worked with the State of Maine Tourism Office now since 1993.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing.
So, and yeah, I mean, at that point, you have so much institutional knowledge that you really can become a strategic advisor to the staff members. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we're very proud of that relationship. So Lynn, is there a book, an app, or a podcast that you found helpful, either personally or professionally, and why?
Okay, well, as you know, I'm an avid reader, and so I constantly have something going, and there have been so many books that I've read that have had an impact, a positive impact. One that I can think of right now, I read a couple of years ago. It's called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And they were Navy SEALs with the U.S. Navy. And they have taken critical learnings that they learned while being Navy SEALs and translated them to business, and how components of that also resonate within business and how you work within your business structure. And the whole crux is that you own everything in your purview. If something goes wrong, you cannot point fingers. Even if it's at someone on your team, you cannot shrug and blame the weather. You really have to look at it, and it's not a matter of blame, but you have to own it. You have to take care of it, and you have to pretty much make sure it doesn't happen again and that things go better the next time. Right. And so that's had a very positive impact on me. And actually, our whole leadership team at VIP read that book, and we had sessions around it. And it's had an amazing impact on how the stores work as well. And so it was a very worthwhile read. I recommend it to anybody.
I love that. And I love the fact that everybody in the leadership team at VIP read it. I think it's a really great management idea for companies to have sort of a book club like that.
Yeah, we do that. We do that often.
Yeah. I know that at Marshall Communications, when this book on content marketing came out, we all read it together and then imagined how we could use it for ourselves and for clients. And that was really impactful.
Yeah, great. You can always learn.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, reading.
Yeah.
I always say readers are leaders. So reading is definitely a good thing for leadership.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. So Lynn, how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow up?
Okay, well, my email address is lcampbell@vipauto.com. I think it's on your screen.
Yeah.
Also, I'm on LinkedIn, Lynn Campbell on LinkedIn. People can certainly contact me there, or they can even call me at VIP Tires and Service. And well, I'm happy to talk to anybody who has an interest about any of the things we've chatted today.
That's awesome. Well, Lynn, thank you. This has been really a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that we met. I mean, we did meet, was it a year ago?
Just over a year ago.
Yeah, and
actually, no, we met probably 2 years ago. It was just before the pandemic when we initially met.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic happened and everything got put on hold, and then we reconnected just over a year ago.
Right. Yes. Well, I'm very grateful for that. So,
as am I.
So, please follow up with Lynn. And if you have any other comments for the podcast or for me, you can email me at nancy@prmaven.com. And I hope you have a great day, PR Maven Nation.
Great. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven Podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the Skills and Games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.